All right. With that, I will hand it over to the both of you. Thank you so much for presenting today.
Of course. Thanks for having us, Suzanne. My name's Sydney. I work on the employer engagement team here at the Career Center. I specifically manage some experiential learning programs in the community-based spaces, nonprofits. And yeah, I'm excited to share a little bit about what I've learned so far in this role, managing some projects and internships, and some of the expertise that Amy and I have in this area.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today, and thanks for being here today on this summer Friday. Excuse me. My name is Amy Browns. I'm one of our associate directors in the Career Center. I lead our employer engagement team, so we work with employers to create experiential learning opportunities for our students, develop those relationships, get them on campus and programs, and interacting with our students. I've been at the Career Center about 3.5 years, and have spent most of my career in higher ed. So I'm really excited to be here today, and talk about this really important topic.
Okay, so one thing I'll note right now is I am not good at speaking and checking the chat at the same time. So Suzanne will kind of be monitoring it. Amy and I will be monitoring it as we can, but there will be time at the end for questions. So throw them in there as you're thinking of them, and we will tackle them at some point. So today we're going to run through a little bit of background to explore really what experiential learning can look like, the importance of transforming or making some of the roles that everyone may already have, or some of these roles that you may be thinking of to fill in some of the needs that you have, how we can make those into really great internship experiences for our students, especially those who want to stay on campus and want something that is accessible. So Amy's going to share a little bit later some of the really big impacts that we can have on students and how we can inspire them possibly to even work in higher education and help open up some doors for them in that way as well. Okay, so in a nutshell, our office looks at preparing students and connecting students as a really good way to just simplify our mission. So we want students to be prepared for their postgraduate experiences. We want them preparing in during the time that they're here at UNC Charlotte. And then while they're here as well, we want to connect them to different resources, different opportunities, and of course to employers and people in the community that are looking to work with and alongside our Niners. So we serve students. We also serve alumni. Alumni have access to our office for life. And then, of course, we support everybody else that has a hand in supporting these students. So families, faculty, staff, and employers. We do look at ourselves as consultants, so we have information that we want to share and help other people that are in various industries, help our campus partners like you. And of course, we have trusted coaches, we are coaches and collaborators. So we have a lot that we manage in our office. If you're familiar with our programming, we have during the fall semester what feels like an event or some sort of service happening every single day. So we are very busy, but we have a lot to offer for our students. So we are focused today on crafting internships. And when we hear internships, what we want people to be thinking of is internships being kind of a broad spectrum of things. There's different types of internships. And what we internally a lot of the times use is experiential learning. And so you may also hear experiential learning as well. And so this is, of course, taking what these students are learning through curriculum and through their academic programs. We want them to take that knowledge and actually apply it. We want them to get that experience that lines up with these industries that they want to work in so that they can build these skills that are that are expected of these students when they enter into their first entry level or postgraduate position. So it very much supplements or it complements the academic curriculum and gets them out into their field. And so, experiential learning, as I mentioned, can look like more than just those internships. So, I manage a project-based experience program that's called the Gig Internship Program. We'll dive into that a little bit later. That looks very much like a micro internship. Amy has a lot of knowledge around co-ops and manages some co-op stuff. And that's very much we see that a lot of the times in engineering fields. But then there can be things like those apprenticeships, externships. We see some of our students in health and human services fields getting practicum and clinical placements. And then we even look at job shadowing, and then, of course, research and those on-campus opportunities as well. Oh, Amy, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Moving toward internships specifically, one of the things that we wanted to point out so everyone is aware is there's a real internship opportunity gap. And so when we look at national data from our National Association of Colleges and Employers and various other sources, a lot of the ones on the slide came from Forbes specifically, but there's a whole lot more of learners and students seeking those internship opportunities. There's a whole lot more of them than there are internship opportunities available. So we shared this slide at our talent symposium this year, where Sid and I and one of our colleagues did an internship focused workshop. And I think a lot of people were surprised by these numbers. There's that huge gap. And then in addition to that, there's also a quality gap. And so a lot of times not a lot of times, but sometimes what we see is an employer will have an internship and, we're running through the job description. It's really not meeting the criteria of what we believe is a quality internship, which we will talk about. So there's a gap. And so one of the ways that we feel that, and a lot of universities are moving toward this, that we can have an impact on that gap is to create programs on campus and meeting students where they are so that they can have the opportunity to participate in these internships. So just a couple of things to point out here. 72% of employers extend full-time offers to internships to interns. That is their goal is always to convert interns into full-time employees. With the exception of some of our nonprofit and government partners, that's not always available, right? Still valuable experience, but they just may not have the position available. But typically in our larger companies, that's the goal. And we see employers be successful. They think they can kind of consider themselves successful if they have conversion rates about 65, but 72 is a really great number. So, when students participate in these internships, they have a lot more opportunities for their future career. So 91% of employers prefer interns or candidates who have had those internships. We hear this all the time from employers. They're looking for students who have had experience while they were in college. And so, doing a traditional internship, those 10 to 15 week internships that we'll kind of talk about later, aren't always an option for students, depending on, what their life situation is. And there's also a lot of unpaid internships. So that's one thing that we wanted to quickly mention. We believe 100% and are in alignment with the National Association of Colleges and Employers that all internships should be paid. They have a kind of vague federal law that if some employers are able to skirt paying interns, but we do not believe that those are equitable. So we do not share those in our system at all. So when an employer comes to us and says that they have an unpaid opportunity, we try to either convert that to a paid situation through just talking with them and getting them to kind of change their mindset about it and giving them information. And we have a handful of programs where the university and the Career Center can support unpaid positions, so we are able to pay our students. So that's really important. But again, it's the number one factor that employers use to really differentiate candidates more so than any other factor. When we look at what's important with the pillars of an internship, what's important to an internship, these are kind of the three areas that we focus on. The actual work and the work that they're doing, the learning opportunities for them to develop those durable and transferable skills that can go from job to job throughout their career, and also support. This is the area where I think most employers who are starting internship programs have a difficult time getting their head around the amount of time and effort that it really takes to have a quality internship program and for those interns to have that quality experience. So looking at having a designated supervisor and a mentor, having someone that the intern can go to at any time with questions to get answers and help them move forward in the projects that they're working on, having regular check-ins and providing feedback is super important. And then opportunities for reflection. This is really important, and one thing that we focus on with academic credit for internships from the Career Center, but I know the colleges and you all do this too. If a student is doing an internship and they're getting academic credit, there are those reflection opportunities there. So they need to be thinking about that as they're doing the internship, what they are enjoying, what aspects they are struggling with, what they are not enjoying. That's equally, an important thing for them to figure out, so that hopefully they can find joy in their careers and find meaning and purpose. So those are all important things, but that support pillar is really the one that we tend to focus on when we're talking to employers about developing those quality internships. So moving on to quality and what we see as what that means. Obviously, those three pillars are really important, but also having clear learning outcomes. So, directly trying to tie what they're learning in the classroom directly into that real world experience. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. Excuse me. And allergies today are not fun. And really developing those skills. So, offering them time to have opportunities to, participate in learning opportunities that the company may have in the department and all of those things. We do those as far as our intern programs that we offer. We have, sort of different modules that they can participate in, but also those professional development opportunities and certainly the reflection as well. So this is really what we're focused on here. I think it can be a little daunting when you're looking at, again, that support, especially given, we're all understaffed in our departments. So we can, think about that. But if you can do that, it's a really, really great way to make a difference. So we really feel that departments can make a difference through on-campus internships, and these are shown to not only help the students get experience, but also support retention and graduation. They're more connected to the university. They feel like they have a part in moving something forward. And they help close this international internship gap. Just to give you an example, one of our big companies that we work with, they had about 200 interns for this summer, and that's globally, and they had those positions available, so 200 positions, and they received more than 30,000 applications for the positions. So really, really important for us to develop more opportunities on campus and develop these different kinds of focus programs like the gig internship program that Sid will talk about to provide that equitable access to everyone. And so students really have that opportunity. So we can provide that right here. And we're doing that, and some departments are doing it outside of programs, but we just want to help you all do that if you're able to. And Sid mentioned this at the beginning. One thing that's an outcome of these campus internships and university departments is that sometimes students begin 1 in 10, and maybe this has happened to you, 1 in 10 students or 1 in 10 university administrators today were either student workers or interns in university departments. I know that I was one of those. I actually tried to avoid education intentionally. My whole family's in education. I call it our family business. And I really didn't ever think of myself as being in education. I had an opportunity to intern in a university department and I loved it. And I decided that I wanted to work in higher ed. So that is a really, really great outcome. And it's something that we all, I think, need to take responsibility for and try to develop future leaders for universities. Again, it isn't always a top of mind thing that students might think about as a place to have a career, but it's really, really important that we do. And they immediately feel aligned with the institution and feel that commitment. They're three times more likely to pursue higher ed careers. And then really, this is one thing that we can really make a difference with our first generation students. And obviously, we have a high percentage of them at our institution, but they are less likely to secure internships. And so with them being able to have campus internships and everyone, all students, you're reducing the barriers of transportation, scheduling, financial restraints, all kinds of things. And we're just meeting them where they are. And so that's just a really, really important aspect of it. So we really can make a difference. I'm going to turn it over to Sid to talk about, where am I? I'm sorry, our student input.
Yeah. So Amy mentioned NACE earlier, so our national association that we fall under. They put out a lot of really great reports, findings. We get a lot of data from them. So when we're thinking about having students partake in internships and experiences within our departments, we do see a lot of benefits for them, and then we see benefits as well for us departmentally. So we understand that students are showing higher satisfaction and performance while in these roles. And then having that structured feedback that Amy was mentioning, so being able to reflect and get feedback from the supervisor and the team that they're working on, they do find confidence from this. And then they also feel that they are more career ready. So creating those feedback loops for them. And then if there's the opportunity for students to co-design projects or have a leadership sort of voice in the work that they're doing, they do build those skills and then they feel that they can take initiative. So there's confidence in that area. And then they feel that they have some ownership in this, that their voice matters, that they are really feeling connected to that project or that work. And then students can often identify workflow improvements. They can identify ways that they could make things efficient or change things to meet the audience that we're serving. So students can impact the way that we are serving students because they have that perspective. So there's a lot of things that sometimes we overlook that students are able to see. And so with departmental benefits, that's exactly what we see. That's a huge benefit. I often go to the students on our marketing team to understand how we should be speaking to the current student population, and I really lean into their specific perspectives so that they can bring that, and so there's innovation there. And then also we see that the things that we're offering are a little bit more relevant. And then, of course, students getting to speak to those student voices. So that's all of what that is contributing to. So When we're thinking about building these experiential learning opportunities, we can break it down into these three parts here. So this is a very simple framework that you should keep top of mind. So picture yourself with a blank sheet of paper. Um, and go through these. So starting off with what exactly is this student going to do? What is the purpose of this position? What is this role really? And then thinking a little bit deeper, again, thinking about what is the student going to get from this? What are those learning outcomes? So what is the student gaining from this? Whether that includes the skills and competencies that they may be building, some of those specific experiential learning project opportunities. What exactly are they getting from this opportunity? And then that support that we keep mentioning. So how is that student going to be guided throughout this process? What are those milestones that you think that they should be meeting? How are you evaluating their progress as they're going through the experience as well? And so when we're designing our experiences, we can take this a little bit deeper. And so these steps should help you really get to a place where you've completed the developing of that internship experience or experiential learning experience. So for the first step, we are going back to that framework that I just mentioned. So what exactly is the student doing? We want to make sure that it's meaningful. So as Amy mentioned, and we'll talk about it in just a second, transforming those roles that you may already have, identifying what's meaningful in that work. Is that internship quality? Are the students building those skills that we often see ourselves using in our professional work, that we see them using in that first full-time job? So what is meaningful about this actual work that you're putting together? Then we go through those learning outcomes to what those students should expect to get from this. We establish the supervision, so understanding, is there a point person that this student is going to? Is there a team of supervisors? Are they on a small team, or are they a part of that entire unit that you may be working within as well? So you really need to establish that framework, and then what that feedback is going to look like. And I think feedback can look different depending on the student that is hired. So that is something that as a supervisor, you need to get to know these students. You need to understand, how does this particular intern operate? What are some of their expectations of their supervisor? And how can you work together with that specific intern? Not everybody receives feedback the same way. So how can you develop a feedback model that really works for the both of you? And then build out your timeline. So if this internship is going to be that 8-work kind of micro internship experience, is it going to be that typical 15-week that we see, kind of a semester long? We have some internships that span a full year. So a lot of the interns that work within our university internship program are expected to work semester to semester, fall into spring. So what exactly does that look like? That is something that a lot of times students need to know ahead of time as they're planning for their networking and their job search strategies. If they're applying for a year-long internship, it's a lot different than if they're applying for one that's just one semester. And then how are you going to be documenting expectations? What will that look like for you to keep track of what will lead to those outcomes that you are expecting? Okay, so transforming the roles. So a lot of departments on campus have part-time roles that exist, the student temp wage roles, even some of our federal work study roles. They're often more so looking like a part-time role. But if you read through some of the responsibilities that that student is doing within these roles, we can see that they have internship quality, that the responsibilities that they're managing are developing those competencies that we really want to see and that future employers want to see. So we can change these part-time roles into a more formal internship by just adding some structure to that experience that you already have built. So you don't always have to start at ground zero. A lot of you may be able to start with a framework that you already have built that you may have been using for the last couple of years. Now, you really just have to think intentionally about what responsibilities are already internship quality, and then of those other responsibilities that may be expected in this role, how can we take those up a notch? How can we make that a little bit more elevated so that the student is, so that you are able to transform that role completely? A lot of the students that are looking for those part-time roles on campus and the students that are, of course, in federal work study roles, they want to work on campus. They enjoy working on campus. I think opening up some of these doors to more students to get that internship experience allows a lot of different departments to offer more experiences for those students. So they get an inside look into some of these departments. A lot of students with the gig project specifically, I have some campus partners that are within certain colleges. And so we see interns that are getting experience in field work or getting experience in the labs. So they are getting that experience that lines up with some of their interest areas and some of the skill developing that they need for some of those roles they're going to pursue. And then we have some departments that already fund their internships with department funds. And so we encourage departments to look at their budgeting and understand how they may make this possible to be able to turn some of these roles into internships, what that will look like in terms of the hourly wages, and then how they can incorporate some of these high quality internships into what they're already doing. So here's an example of using the framework that we've just been talking about. I know through managing some of the projects that I manage and some of the experiential learning programs, and then also leading some of the marketing initiatives in our office. Marketing and communications is a big need that a lot of departments have. Even a lot of the organization partners that I have off campus are often looking for things in these areas. So this example, we are looking at what is that student actually doing. So just to break it down very simply, they would be in charge of creating social media content. So that is one of the expectations. The analytics, so analytics in terms of social media, analytics in terms of any channels that you may be putting out content on. You can really define that in a little bit more depth, but in a nutshell, they're doing analytic work and then campaign support. And then when we move into learning, so what are those learning expectations? What are they actually getting from this experience? So in the social media content and in the campaign support, they're going to be writing and they're going to be writing for specific audiences. So they're doing a lot of digital work, so we can really spell that out. With the analytics, they are going to be interpreting data, so getting those details, interpreting those details, and then it may even be presenting those details, so we can see another skill that could be thrown in there. And then project management. So a lot of this work includes managing multiple priorities, so they will get some experience there. And then our career competencies, our career skills, of the 8 that employers look for, we can already see that they're going to be developing professionalism, technology, and communication skills. And then that support and that feedback that we're giving to those students, the intern in this position would be maybe weekly check-ins. So having those meetings that are always there, that a student is able to have that one-on-one time with their supervisor. At the end of the internship experience, after they've worked on multiple projects, we can provide them with portfolio review and support with what they should be adding to that portfolio. And then mentorship as well. So guidance, getting to know the student to understand what they're looking for, what are some goals that they have. A lot of times I'll talk to my interns about their job description and the expectations within the first week, but then I'll also try to understand, are there things outside of this that they're looking to grow in, and how could I maybe incorporate that into their experience? And then mentorship doesn't have to just look like that individual or identified supervisor. The mentorship can come from a lot of different people. Again, just helping the student identify who could make a good mentor, but of course, a supervisor should act as a mentor in some way as well. Okay. And then some keys to success. So this came from AJ Simmons. He's been a really great partner through the gig internship program that I manage. He has, for I think at least 3 semesters now, submitted gig projects, and they've all been slightly different. But he's done a really great job managing those projects and helping students to have just a really beautiful project experience. So he looks for students that are interested in the project that he is hiring for. And he really tries to align the project even more so with the student once they're hired. So again, just getting to know the student, understanding the strengths that they have. With our gig program, it is really easy to offer flexible scheduling, but I think even with a 10-hour per week internship, you can easily offer flexible scheduling. Students being right on campus, we see them working a few hours in the morning, going to class, and then coming back and working a few more hours. So it creates a lot of flexibility, which is also something that students desire. The consistent communication was really great from AJ. So he, even with a short-term 8-week project, was able to provide really strong communication to the student and help that student to also feel confident communicating with him. So he never had to worry about some of those milestones and expectations that the student was supposed to be hitting. They were clearly communicating as the project progressed. And he always puts together a really clear vision of the project. So when I review the projects and kind of look at the scope, look at whether they have identified what the expectations and outcomes will be, he always is able to really map it out. And I know that the student is going to feel confident with what actually is expected of them, how they will complete the project when they get to the end of it. They know that they have done what they were tasked to do. Oh, you're on mute, Amy.
I keep doing that.
Yep.
So I just want to transition into a couple of the programs that we offer at the Career Center that you all can look into and apply for. The first you all are probably familiar with, it's the University Internship Program. We've changed the name of it. It used to be University Professional Internship Program, UPIP. And so this program has been around for a long time. Was established, I believe, about 10 years ago. However, we have not gotten new funding for that program since it was established. So as we have increased salaries for the students and hourly wages for this program, so those are now at 13 an hour. And then there's a lead position as well that's 14 an hour, so a handful of those. We haven't really been able to grow the program due to that and just the funding staying stagnant. But these are campus internships where university departments apply, post the position, and give us all the job descriptions, and then we try to offer a lot of times, for example, someone will need 5 interns, and we will only be able to fund 1 or 2, and then the department will fund the 100%. But the funding is half and half, so it's $650 for each the department, and then the Career Center pays $650 as well. If we are able to participate. So right now, I think that this coming year we have 77 UPIP interns. We were able to fund every department who requested an intern, but not necessarily 100% of all the positions that they wanted, just because there was, more requests than we have funding for. This program is open to all sophomores through seniors, so it's a great way to especially if you have a sophomore and you can hire a sophomore to get them to commit to that year. And then if things go well and the student, wants to return and you want the student to return, they can do a second year, but they're limited to 4 semesters with the same department. We'll see a lot of students. I have quite a few from this year who are continuing into that second year, and then they have more responsibility, and they can potentially, manage those other student interns that you have and sort of have that peer-to-peer management as well, which is a great opportunity. So that's the University Internship Program. We, really, like I said, don't have enough funding to fund everything, but, we are hoping that even if we can't fund something that we can help you all, transform student temporary wage or federal work study positions into department funded internships. And then Sid, this is Sid's program, so I'll let them get into the details next. But the gig internships are really designed as short-term or project-based or micro internships, as sometimes they're called, where they're anywhere from 5 to 40 hours. So these are like projects that you've been sort of sitting aside and don't have anyone to work on it. And then, a student can come in this gig internship and do this short-term assignment and, really apply the specific skills. They're designed where the student doesn't have as much onboarding as you would with a traditional internship, so they could have these skills that they could really hit the ground running. That's the goal. So these are open to all students. I think Sid had some for graduate students this year as well. But of course they are limited as well, but there's the applications and all the things that happen. And, if we're not able to fund something, we hope to work with you all to figure out how to fund it later or to find other funding or do something, but we're here to help. And I'll let Sid turn it back over to them to talk about the differences between internships and gig internships.
Yeah, so I'll start with gigs since we're on that topic. So we look at these as spanning half of the semester. So they are offered in the second half. So October to December, and then February to April is for the spring. Um, I typically see most projects requested for 30 to 40 hours. A lot of times, if somebody requests for 30 to 35, I just give them the 40, just so that they have that. But if you do know that your project would really only take 5 to 10, then that's perfect. That is acceptable as well. And then with this, as I mentioned earlier, with AJ putting together the scope of his projects and having everything very clearly written and thought out, is we want to see the milestones. So, what does a new student need to complete throughout the phases of this short cycle? And that's very similar to an internship. And then the project deliverables. So, with this project and the scope of it, what are you really expecting at the end of it? That needs to be identified for your sake and for the student's sake as well. As Amy mentioned, we really want to choose students. We want to hire the students that already have the skills needed to complete this project because a lot of times, the purpose of these projects for departments and for organizations is to fill a gap where they don't have somebody that has that specialty area, or as Amy said, it just keeps being put on the back burner because it's not a priority. So we want the student to be able to jump right in and fill in that gap. There isn't a lot of time for onboarding if a student is only working on a 15-hour project. Even with the 40 hours, it can be really hard. I'm working with a unit right now where going to try to help them develop a really short onboarding process because they realize that their onboarding would take so much time that it's really not going to leave a lot of time for their project. So you really have to think ahead. If there's going to be so much onboarding required, it's probably better fit as an internship. And then with our gig internship program for campus partners in specifically, I am starting to grow a cohort model of this program where if a campus department sees the need for maybe 3, maybe 4 students that could work in a cohort, whether it's on one big project where they know multiple students would be needed, or maybe there's 3 parts of this large scale project that could be split into 3 different roles. I am looking for more departments that have a need like that. I'm currently working with One IT and Niner Finances. They are our two big kind of pilot departments, and then I'll be looking to grow that. Gig projects for the fall semester are no longer being accepted. We already went through that application cycle and posted those positions. So if you have ideas for gig internships and a cohort that could be utilized in your office, just send me an email and we can make sure that that's on my radar. And then for internships, we typically see them as 40 to 80 hours, so minimum of 5 weeks. So that is a big difference between our gig internship or our micro internships. We do see the typical average around 11. If it's a semester internship, it's going to be that 15-week mark. There really is no maximum, but those we typically see a really great kind of cycle of like onboarding a student, getting them acclimated to the role. If you have them for a semester or 2 semesters, that can feel really great as far as your bandwidth as well. And then students typically don't work more than 20 hours per week for an internship. It very much is like a part-time capacity for them. And then if it's offered over the summer, which our university internship program does not operate over the summer, but if you have a department-funded internship, you can offer it over the summer and students can actually work full-time. So I think they can work up to 39 weeks in the summer, 38 or 39, but it could certainly be part-time as well. And then it just needs to be focused in some way. So whether it's on a slew of projects that are all kind of over a certain umbrella or under a certain umbrella, or maybe it's focused on a specific program. And then, of course, that communication plan, the feedback loop, the evaluation that happens. There are departments, I think Amy mentioned this, with the academic credit programs where there's formal evaluations built in. So a kind of early evaluation after the student has worked for 2 or 3 weeks, and then evaluations throughout the rest of it and one at the end. So putting together something so that you can evaluate and help that student progress throughout the remainder of their experience. And so just to sum it all up, we're going to jump to questions in a second. Just some things to remember. We really want to encourage everyone to transition the roles that they may already be offering to those internship quality experiences. So really review those existing positions and see what you can do. If you, as Amy mentioned, I think I've mentioned it, so we'll just really hone in on this. The federal work study component can be really helpful because we have a lot of students that don't use their federal work study funding. There are opportunities on campus, but there can always be more opportunities. So if we use the federal work study funding and hire a student that gets that funding through their package, then we can really create that into an internship level position instead of just a part-time job. But as we said, we have limited funds, but if you can figure out using your department funds, that can be a really great opportunity for you so that we can have students here on campus and really excited about contributing to the community that they're building here and experiencing here, help them feel that sense of belonging. So we will end here. We'll definitely take questions at this time. You can always connect with us. There's a lot of resources on our website. We have resources that are faculty facing, staff facing, but we also have employer resources that may be really helpful for you as you're developing internships and focusing on experiential education. If you want to come see us, we are in Atkins Annex, so we're just connected to the main building. And we'd love to have you follow us and connect with us on our social media channels. If you run a campus department social media channel, we'll be sure to follow you back and support you as well. But yeah, we'd love to pause here and open it up for questions.